these psychopaths who are praising this, he shouldn't have missed, yada yada. They don't understand the hell that they would have ushered in, but for this act of God, I say, that avoided a World War III.
I'm here with YouTuber Viva Frei, a fellow Canadian and a fellow former Montrealer that moved to the Free State of Florida, like myself. What brings you to Milwaukee?
I have come to cover the RNC, and I've been doing just walking, live streaming from the ground, within the perimeter. Live streaming on the outside is interesting, but it doesn't really seem like there's very many counter-protesters to even have a discussion with.
Did you try to speak to the counter-demonstrators?
Yes, yesterday we tried to speak with, they're not here anymore, but I tried to speak with them, but they're clearly mentally unwell, so it's not like you're going to have a meaningful, rational conversation with them. But there's only been, I've seen 3 or 4. I saw that big brigade or whatever of LGBT flags and the Palestinian flag. There was a big one where they were walking around marching, but nobody was talking. They don't want to talk. They just want to shout through bullhorns.
Fair enough. What do you make of the Trump attempted assassination on Saturday?
I mean, we witnessed a miracle. I don't care if you're religious or not. We witnessed something of divine intervention, because had that bullet caught its mark, we'd probably be in civil war, a hot civil war, and rapidly descending into a World War III in a very meaningful, non-hyperbolic sense. Like Franz Ferdinand, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, was a relatively, I would say, low-level politician, but that triggered the world into a World War I, because you had international, global powers trying to fight for, over the very, similar stuff to what they're fighting over today. And you have one destabilizing act that gives any impetus to global powers to make their move. We would have seen that 100%. These psychopaths who are praising this, he shouldn't have missed, yada yada. They don't understand the hell that they would have ushered in, but for this act of God, I say, that avoided a World War III.
And videos came out, like people showing footage of how Trump literally just moved his head, like just enough.
A quarter of an inch.
Quarter of an inch, and that saved his life, but also saved America.
If you don't believe in God, you'll call it an extreme fluke. It's like that scene from Pulp Fiction. Whether you call it an act of God or something incredibly, a fluke. It's a cosmic fluke, at the very least. It's a divine intervention to have averted that. Now, the gentleman, Corey, who died, I mean, it's tough to say like it's a miracle when someone actually got killed nonetheless. At some point, you can't really prevent evil from being evil, but what we saw was an aversion of what would have been a cataclysmic event in the history of humanity. And as it turns out now, it looks like it's going to be cataclysmic in the opposite sense. There is a unification, not among the evil people who supported this, cheered it on, whatever, or mock Trump in the aftermath, but there's a unification that enough is enough, and of the reasonable people of this universe, you can't tolerate this type of evil. They spend 8 years calling Trump a racist, a tyrant, an extremist, a threat to humanity, an existential threat, and then security has this inexplicable lapse of security. They couldn't put snipers on the roof because it was too sloped. I mean, it's idiotic. We averted cataclysmic disaster by an act of God. I'm sounding religious. I'm not religious, by the way, people, but it's tough not to understand that that's what we just witnessed. Oh, the security. You want to talk about the security?
We can talk about security, but actually, I read last night that they fired or demoted 2 motorcycle cops from Philadelphia that were part of the motorcade of Trump, and they said they didn't have the proper clearance to be there, but those 2 officers actually helped gunshot victims or people that got injured, and these 2 officers actually got injured themselves, slightly injured, nothing major, but they got demoted. So it seems like they're trying to fire cops or demote cops over something that's a lot bigger than that.
We got to wait for a number of details to come out. There are reports that the sniper who killed the shooter has been fired or put on leave of absence. So some details we have to wait for, but some details we don't have to wait for. Kim Cheadle. Her name is Cheadle. Like there's an expression, nomen es omen, or omen es nomen. Nomen es omen. There's an indication in the name. Her name is Cheadle. She comes out and says, yes, it's terrible. It should never happen again. And I take full responsibility. But we couldn't put a sniper on the roof because it was too sloped. I mean, first of all, the roof from which the sniper shot the shooter was more sloped. It's an abject disaster. It's a clear setup in my view. And regardless of what you think of it, that woman should be fired. That person should be fired. I mean, people are talking DEI, whatever. I don't care if she's a man, woman, whatever. She should be fired and charged. And I mean, I swear to you, it's criminal negligence at best, and something much more sinister at worst.
Yeah, definitely. If you almost lose the former president, most likely the upcoming president, it wasn't the Secret Service that saved Trump. Sure, they jumped in afterwards and took out the shooter.
Five females who are shorter than Trump. I mean, it's amazing. Oh, it should never happen again. It's like they left the door open and the dog got out. It's like, oh, no, we'll do our best to make sure we lock the door.
You know, you got to take responsibility, and certain things is resigning or being fired and shame.
Sometimes responsibility means consequences. Taking responsibility with no consequences is not taking responsibility. She should be fired and she should be investigated. And as far as I'm concerned, she should be arrested, charged, convicted, and jailed for what she did or didn't do.
And back to the convention, you know, I have not been inside. What's the mood in there, especially Trump? You know, I assume you were in there when Trump came in. I saw the video; it was emotional. How was the floor?
I actually wasn't in there when Trump came in. I was on Tim Pool, and I was having a good time there. But the mood is it's actually not dark. It's not despaired. It's sort of like the Ottawa trucker protest. There's an actual sense of white pill optimism. Like that. It's not just that Trump, by the skin of his ear, escaped death. It's that in the wake of that, he appoints J.D. Vance as vice president, or names him as vice presidential nominee. The best possible pick he could have done. He calls RFK Jr. A video's leaked of him on the phone with RFK Jr. unifying, talking about, you know, suggesting deep state involvement in assassinations. There's a unification with RFK Jr., which all but solidifies a Trump election, and the case out of Florida getting dismissed by Judge Eileen Cannon. It was like a white pill Monday moment, where the mood in there is one of almost elation, but at the very least, optimism for the first time in a long time. It looks like we are dealing with a dying, evil regime, the evil empire of the Biden administration, and by the grace of God, a surging bringing back of America through Trump.
What do you think about the security over here? Look, there's a lot of cops everywhere.
When they talk about the lapse, like one determined individual can, you know, try to almost kill the president. That was a lazy individual, and that was not like a determined project. True, anybody could if they really put their minds to it, but security's amazing. The perimeter's locked off from well beyond the Pfizer Center. There are more cops here than, I think, you know, civilians. And, you know, Milwaukee's probably never been safer, but I've seen amazing security. It's everywhere, and, you know, good. I mean, it's amazing. It's quite a significant presence.
And this is a bit of a controversial topic for some, but the Amber Rose saga, what do you think about that?
I think what should distinguish conservatives or the right from the left, and I think it is what does distinguish the right from the left, is that there's no purity test, there's no litmus test. It is the party that welcomes people who see the light. Now, we don't all have to live by the same... we don't all have to live by... I don't mind it. It's quite beautiful. We don't all have to live by the same moral standards, so long as it's within a realm of you know, objective reasonability. I think it's fantastic that she saw the light and she came over as well. I think anybody giving her a hard time is picking the wrong fight with the wrong people at the wrong time. Infighting is what is happening among the Democrats. It's not what should be happening. Certainly not with a lifelong Democrat like Amber Rose. Look, the people judging her, do we want to go scrutinize their lives for moral purity? No. So barring, you know, objective stuff like someone coming in and saying, well, I support gender-affirming care on children, well, that might not be incompatible with the fundamental principles of the right-wing conservatism. But you don't want to turn into the morally self-righteous litmus test that you see on the left.
You know, even J.D. Vance in 2016 was not the biggest Trump fan out there. There's, you know, people are going to knock him for it. And actually, that's something I like about him. He changed his mind. He saw how Trump was in power, and then he was like, actually, I do like that guy.
Anybody holding that against J.D. Vance is basically someone who says, I want to deter moral and spiritual evolution. First of all, It was a different world in 2016. Trump was a different person in 2016. The moral, political, global landscape was different. Trump hadn't been through what he had been through. The world hadn't gone through what it's gone through. It's stupid, juvenile, and I dare say very lefty to say, well, you once said never Trump, and therefore we will never accept you again. Horse crap. Trump has proven himself, and to the point where people with an open mind are prepared to say, yes, I was either wrong back then, or it was a different world, and he's evolved since then. J.D. Vance is the best possible pick. He's also the best possible chick, but he's the best possible pick that Trump could have had. He is, right now, Trump's life insurance policy. When they tried to take him out, it was before the official nomination. It was before he had a VP, and I have a strong feeling that, the Nikki Haley's of the world were showing up here today, and Nikki Haley in particular thinking she would have been the presidential nominee if the plan had gone according to plan. I see DJ Vance all the time. When he makes a mixtape, it's going to be DJ Vance. But J.D. Vance is the best possible pick. Young, energetic, populist, food freedom, medical freedom, and there's no incentive now to, in theory, even have a second attempt to have Trump removed, because J.D. Vance replacing him would be just as irritating for the deep state. And you know that he's the right pick when all of the scummiest scum of earth are flipping out over the pick of J.D. Vance.
What do you think about people like Nikki Haley? Does she have place in the GOP?
No, but she can be forgiven. But no, I don't place in the GOP. Everyone's got a place, but not in the administration. I don't think. The administration, this is going to be on our channel with Robert Barnes. He talks about a transformative versus a transitional versus a transformative presidency. In order for this to be a transformative presidency, as it's starting off to be, it needs new blood, new people, new ideas, and populist ideas, not war whores, people who support the regime, the deep state, endless wars abroad to the detriment of Americans. I think you bring it back and you make that change with people like J.D. Vance, and certainly not with Nikki Haley.
Thank you, Viva.
It's been amazing.
Where can people find you? I know where to find you, but
if you Google Viva Frei, but vivabarneslaw.locals.com is the best place on earth to find our community. Viva Frei everywhere, the Viva Frei on Twitter. And if you put my name, Viva Frei, in the news, Google search rhythm, you'll find everything.
If you like what you're seeing, you want to see more from the RNC convention here in Milwaukee, go to rebelnewsusa.com for the whole story.